The night was cold, and the small town at the edge of the colony was quiet. Most houses were dark, only a few windows showing soft yellow light. In the middle of that silence, a knock came at the old wooden door of a human's house. Daniel, a middle-aged human, opened the door slowly. He did not expect anyone this late. Standing outside was an alien girl, her clothes torn, her body shaking from cold. Her eyes were bright but filled with fear and shame. She looked straight into his eyes and spoke in a low, broken voice. "Rent me for one night, human," she said. "Even if you leave me pregnant, I don't care. Just give me food and a place to sleep." Daniel froze. He had never heard such words in his life. The girl's voice was not begging for love, it was begging for survival. She was not joking, not playing games, she was serious. The cold wind blew against them. Daniel saw how thin she was. Her ribs showed through her skin. Her hands trembled, as if she had not eaten for days. Daniel's heart squeezed, but he also felt a strange tension. Why had she come to his house? There were other homes in the colony. Why here? He stepped aside. "Come in," he said. The girl hesitated. For a moment, she thought maybe it was a trick. Maybe this human would laugh or call others. But her legs were weak and the warmth inside pulled her forward. Slowly she entered. Daniel closed the door. The room was simple. Wooden chairs, a table, and a small fire burning in the corner. The alien girl stared at the fire like it was treasure. "You don't need to say such things," Daniel said gently. "Sit down. I'll bring you food." But the girl shook her head hard. "No, I have nothing else to offer. My debts, my shame. I can only give my body. Just one night, human. Then I will leave." Her voice cracked on the last words. She wanted to sound strong, but the truth broke through. She was scared, hungry, and desperate. Daniel placed a bowl of warm soup on the table and slid it toward her. "Eat first." The smell of food hit her and her body moved before her mind could resist. She grabbed the bowl, her fingers almost burning from the heat, and began to eat. She ate fast, too fast, as if someone would take it away. Daniel sat across from her, watching silently. He noticed scars on her wrists, thin lines that told stories of chains or whips. Her neck carried a faint mark of a collar. After finishing, she looked down, ashamed. "Now take what you want, that was the deal." Daniel leaned back in his chair, his eyes calm but sharp. "I don't want that," he said. The girl's head snapped up, eyes wide. "What? Then why let me in? Why feed me? Humans, they never do anything for free." Daniel sighed. "Maybe not all humans are the same, maybe I'm different." For a moment, silence filled the room. The girl stared at him, trying to understand, was this kindness or another trap? Her voice shook. "If you don't, then others will. They always want to use me. At least if you do it, I get food. I can survive." Daniel felt anger rise inside him, not at her, but at the world that pushed her into this bargain. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "No one will touch you, not tonight, not ever, if you stay." His words hung, heavy in the air. The girl felt her chest tighten. She wanted to believe him, but belief was dangerous. Trusting could kill her. She wrapped her arms around herself, looking toward the door. She could run. She could leave. But the fire was warm, the food filled, her stomach and her heart. Her heart wanted to stay, just for a while. Daniel looked at her like a father looking at a child who had suffered too much. But in his eyes there was also a secret, a past pain he never spoke about. He knew what it felt like to lose everything. He knew what hunger and loneliness could do to a soul. The girl whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear. "Why me? Why are you helping me?" Daniel did not answer. Not yet. He only said, "Rest. Tomorrow we will talk." She curled near the fire, still unsure, still afraid. Her body wanted sleep, but her mind stayed awake. The words, "stay forever," had not been spoken yet, but something in the way he looked at her, something in his silence, told her that this bargain would not end as she had expected. Outside, the wind howled against the house, but inside, for the first time in many years, the alien girl felt a tiny spark of safety. And Daniel, watching her fall into uneasy sleep, knew his quiet life was about to change forever. The night grew deeper, and the alien girl lay close to the fire, her thin body curled like a frightened child. Her breathing was uneven, like someone who did not trust sleep. Daniel watched her for a long time. He knew she had eaten well, but food alone could not erase years of fear. He moved quietly to place another log into the fire. The crackling sound woke her, and she sat up at once, eyes wide, ready to defend herself. "It's just me," Daniel said softly. "Relax. You're safe." The girl blinked, her chest rising fast. She was not used to safety. On her world, kindness always came, with a price. She hugged herself tighter and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Daniel thought for a moment. He could not tell her everything. Not yet. "Because no one should sleep hungry," he finally said. The girl lowered her gaze. She wanted to argue, to say that survival always had a cost, but the warmth of the fire and the taste of food still lingered on her lips. It was hard to speak against it. Daniel brought her an old blanket. "Here, it's not much, but it will keep you warm." She touched the fabric carefully, almost with fear, as if he might snatch it back. When he didn't, she wrapped it around her shoulders and sighed. The blanket smelled of wood smoke and old cotton, but to her, it smelled like safety. For a long time, silence filled the small room. The girl's eyes wandered over the simple walls, the shelves with a few books, the small tools lying near the door. Nothing rich, nothing powerful, just a home. Finally, she asked, "What's your name?" "Daniel," he replied. She hesitated before answering. "My name is Lyra." The name hung between them, fragile and unfamiliar. Daniel repeated it slowly, almost kindly. "Lyra." Her lips trembled. She was not used to hearing her name spoken, without anger or demand. On her world, people called her debt mark, property, rented one. Hearing her true name again felt strange. Daniel poured her a cup of warm water and handed it over. "Tell me, Lyra, why come to me?" Her eyes darkened. She looked at the flames instead of him. "I didn't choose. I was pushed. They told me if I didn't bring back credits tonight, they would take me again. I ran. I saw the light in your house, that's all." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had guessed it already, but hearing it made his chest heavy. Lyra turned her face toward him, testing his reaction. Most humans would laugh or take advantage, but Daniel's eyes only showed quiet anger, not at her but at the cruelty that hunted her. "You don't have to go back," he said firmly. Her hands tightened around the cup. "I have no choice. Debts don't vanish. If I don't pay, they will come for me, maybe even here." Daniel looked at the fire, his thoughts hidden. He knew she was right. If hunters came, they would not leave easily. Still, something inside him refused to let this girl go back to that life. "You need rest," he said at last. "Sleep now. Tomorrow, we will think of something." Lyra lay down again, pulling the blanket close, but her eyes stayed open. She whispered, "Humans always want something. You say I'm safe. But what do you really want?" Daniel turned his face away so she could not see his pain. He remembered another voice from long ago, his wife's voice, before the war took her away. He remembered how she once asked him the same question. "What do you want, Daniel?" He wanted to say, "I want my family back. I want the world to be kind again." But instead he whispered, "I only want you to survive." Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to laugh, to call him a liar. But something in his tone broke through her defenses. She slowly closed her eyes, though sleep was fragile, ready to break with the smallest sound. Hours passed. Outside, the colony street was empty, the wind pushing dust along the ground. A shadow moved in the distance, two figures dressed in black scanning the houses. They carried shock staves and scanners. Inside, Daniel finally dozed in his chair, but his instincts woke him as the shadows drew closer. He looked out the window and saw them moving slowly down the street. Hunters. His hand clenched. If they were looking for Lyra, then danger was already at his door. He turned back to her. She was asleep at last, her face soft and almost peaceful in the glow of the fire. For a moment, she looked like any normal girl, not someone broken by debt and cruelty. Daniel whispered to himself, "You're safe here. I'll make sure of it." But in his heart, he knew safety would not come easy. The bargain she had offered was only the beginning. The real fight was yet to start. The morning sun crept into the small house, painting the walls with pale light. Daniel was already awake, boiling water for tea. His eyes were heavy with little sleep, but his mind stayed sharp. He kept listening for any sound outside. The hunters from last night had not knocked, but he knew they were close. On the floor near the fire, Lyra stirred. She blinked at the light, confused for a moment before remembering where she was. Her hand quickly touched her body, as if to check if she had been harmed. When she realized nothing had happened, her chest rose and fell with relief. Daniel placed a cup of tea near her. "Good morning." She sat up slowly, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. "You didn't touch me," she whispered, as if still shocked. Daniel looked at her with calm eyes. "I told you. You're safe here." Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but disbelief was carved deep into her soul. She took the cup with shaking fingers and sipped carefully. The warmth spread through her body, but it could not melt the ice inside her heart. After a while, Daniel asked gently, "Lyra, tell me the truth. Who are you running from?" Her body stiffened. The cup rattled in her hands. She stared at the flames again, the way she always did when she didn't want to meet his eyes. "I wasn't always like this," she said finally, her voice flat, distant. "I was born in the inner colonies. My family was poor, but we had a small home. My mother used to sing, my father used to work in the mines. We were happy, even with nothing." Daniel stayed silent, letting her speak. Then the debt collectors came. My father borrowed money to treat my mother's sickness. When he couldn't pay back, they took everything. The house, the little things we owned. Then they took us. Her hands moved unconsciously to her wrists, rubbing the scars Daniel had seen. They put collars on us, said we belonged to them until the debt was paid. But the debt only grew. Every meal, every night, every breath, they turned it into more numbers. Her voice cracked. My father died in the mines. My mother was sold. I never saw her again. And me. She pulled the blanket aside, showing faint marks on her arms, burns and cuts that had healed badly. I was rented, to whoever had credits. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had seen pain before on the battlefield in the eyes of refugees, but every time it felt like a knife twisting in his chest. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, but she kept speaking. "Do you understand now? That's why I came to your door. That's all I know. If I want food, I must sell myself. If I want to live, I must be owned. There is no other way." Daniel leaned forward, his voice low but strong. "There is another way. Here, with me." She shook her head sharply, almost angry. "Don't lie. You think you can fight the debt, Mark? You think you can stop the hunters? No one can. I've seen what happens to those who try. They disappear. Forever." The fire crackled between them. Daniel thought of his own scars, ones Lyra had not seen. Years ago, he had lost his wife to raiders. He had lost his only child to sickness. He knew the weight of hopelessness. Yet here, sitting across from him, was someone who had suffered even more and still lived. "I can't erase your scars. he said slowly. But I can give you something they cannot. Choice. Lyra's laugh was bitter. Choice? What choice do I have? To run until they catch me? To hide until they drag me out? Even you, human, will get tired of me. One night, maybe two. Then, you'll send me away. Daniel's eyes burned with quiet fire. You don't know me yet. She froze. His words weren't loud, but they carried weight. Something in his tone shook her, like he was not only speaking to her, but to the ghosts of his own past. For a long time, silence hung heavy. Then Lyra lowered her head, her shoulders trembling. For the first time, she let tears fall freely without wiping them away. Daniel reached across the table not to grab her, not to demand anything, but simply to place his hand near hers. He didn't touch. He only left the choice to her. After a long moment, her small hand moved and rested lightly on his. Just for a second before she pulled back quickly, ashamed. She whispered, "If they find me here, they'll hurt you too." Daniel looked toward the window, where the colony street stretched into sunlight. His jaw tightened. Then let them try. Outside, the two hunters from last night stood in the shadows, scanning the street again. One of them pointed toward Daniel's house. Inside, Lyra sat with her scars, her fear, and her fragile hope. Daniel knew the storm was coming, but he also knew he would not let her face it alone. The day passed slowly inside Daniel's house. Lyra barely moved from her spot near the fire. Even when the warmth touched her skin, her body remained tense, as if she was waiting for the door to break open at any moment. Daniel worked quietly. He cut wood, cleaned his tools, and kept checking the window every hour. He noticed shadows passing on the street more than once. Hunters. Their black uniforms were easy to recognize. He said nothing to Lyra, but his eyes stayed sharp. By evening, a heavy silence filled the house. Daniel cooked another meal, bread and stew. He placed the bowl in front of Lyra. She hesitated at first, then began to eat, slower this time, as if she finally trusted it wouldn't be taken away. Halfway through, she stopped and looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again, her voice more desperate than curious. "You could have thrown me out, you could have called the hunters. Instead, you risk everything." "Why?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He stirred his own stew, staring into the bowl. Memories of his wife and daughter haunted him, faces that never returned after the war. He had lived alone ever since, surviving day by day in silence. Now in front of him was a girl carrying scars that echoed his own emptiness. Finally he said, "Because no one should live like property. Not you. Not anyone." Lyra's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She lowered her gaze quickly, afraid of what she might feel if she looked too long into his eyes. Night returned, wrapping the colony in darkness. Outside, the hunters prowled, their voices muffled, their boots crunching against the dirt road. Daniel tightened the lock on his door. Lyra curled into the blanket again, but sleep refused to come. Every creak of wood made her flinch. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. Finally, she whispered, "They will come here. You can't stop them." Daniel sat in his chair, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. His voice was low, but steady. "If they come, I'll face them." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Hunters don't just take the debt marked. They punish anyone who helps them. If they see me here, they'll take you too." Daniel's face hardened, but his eyes softened when he looked at her. "Then let them try." The words shocked her. No one had ever chosen danger for her sake. No one had ever said they would stand beside her. Lyra pulled the blanket tighter. Her throat was dry, her heart racing. She wanted to ask why he cared, but the words stuck inside her. Instead, she whispered, "You're strange. For a human." Daniel almost smiled, but the sadness in his eyes remained. "Maybe strange is what you need." Hours passed. The fire burned low. Lyra lay awake, her back turned toward him. Her mind replayed every cruel hand, every cold night, every time someone said she was worth nothing but her body. Yet now this human gave her food, shelter, and no demands. She could not understand it. Finally, in the heavy silence, Daniel spoke. His voice was soft, almost carried away by the crackle of dying fire. "You don't have to leave, Lyra." She froze. "You can stay," he continued. "Not just tonight, not just until they stop looking. Stay as long as you want. Stay forever." Her breath caught. She turned to look at him, her eyes wide in the dim glow. "Stay forever?" she repeated, as if the words were impossible. Daniel nodded once. His gaze was steady, honest. "I won't rent you, I won't use you, I'll protect you, but the choice is yours." Lyra's chest tightened painfully. She had dreamed of safety but never believed it could be real. Every part of her wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at her heart. What if it was a trick? What if, once she trusted, he betrayed her like the others? Her lips trembled. "I don't know how to stay, I only know how to run." Daniel leaned back in his chair, his voice calm but firm. "Then let me teach you, one step at a time." Tears welled in her eyes. She quickly turned away, pressing her face into the blanket. She did not want him to see her cry, but inside something shifted, a small spark breaking through years of darkness. Outside, the hunters stopped near Daniel's house. One of them scanned the walls with a device that glowed faintly blue. "The mark was seen here," the taller one muttered. Inside, Lyra's eyes shut tight as she forced herself to breathe. Daniel reached for the old rifle leaning against the wall. He moved quietly, ready if the door burst open. But for now, the hunters moved on, their boots echoing into the night. Lyra whispered into the blanket, her voice trembling but full of longing. "Stay forever. No one ever said that to me." Daniel heard her, but said nothing. He only sat in silence, keeping watch, knowing that the promise he had made would soon be tested. The next morning came with a heavy sky, clouds hanging low over the colony. The streets outside were quiet, too quiet. Daniel stepped out of his door and looked both ways. He noticed marks in the dirt, boot prints, heavy and fresh. The hunters had been close during the night. Inside, Lyra sat at the table, clutching the blanket like armor. Her eyes were fixed on him. She could read the tension in his body, even before he spoke. "They're searching," Daniel said calmly. "They haven't given up." Her face paled. She pulled the blanket tighter. "I told you, they'll come for me. They always do." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Then they'll find me waiting." Lyra shook her head. "No, you don't understand. They don't fight fair. They don't just take the marked one. They punish anyone who stands in their way. You'll lose your house. You'll lose everything." Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady. "I already lost everything once. I won't let it happen to you." Her lips trembled. She wanted to scream at him for being foolish, for risking himself. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no fear, only resolve, and that frightened her even more because it made her want to believe him. By noon, the colony square was buzzing. Whispers spread quickly. "Hunters are here. They're looking for a runaway." Daniel and Lyra stayed hidden in his house, but the sound of boots echoed again and again outside. Suddenly, a heavy knock shook the door. Daniel grabbed his old rifle and motioned for Lyra to stay quiet. She pressed herself against the wall, her heart hammering so loudly she thought it would give her away. The knock came again, harder this time. Then a cold voice called, "Open the door, human. We know she's inside." Daniel took a breath and opened the door slowly. Two hunters stood there, tall and armored, their eyes hidden behind black visors. The taller one carried a scanner glowing faintly. "We tracked her mark here," the hunter said flatly. "The alien girl. Debt-marked. She belongs to the syndicate." Daniel's grip tightened on the rifle, though he kept it low. "No one belongs to the syndicate," he said. The shorter hunter stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Careful, human. Hiding her is a crime. Hand her over now, and we'll forget you ever helped her. Daniel's eyes narrowed. And if I don't? The taller hunter smirked. Then we burn this place down with both of you inside. Behind the wall, Lyra's breath caught. She covered her mouth, fighting the urge to cry out. Her body remembered. The pain of collars, the screams of others dragged away. Every instinct told her to run, to give herself up so Daniel would be spared. But Daniel stood firm. She's not leaving this house, he said. His voice was calm, but like steel. So. Hunters stiffened. They were not used to resistance in these colonies. Most people feared them too much to even argue. The shorter one leaned closer. Why risk your life for her? She's nothing. A body for rent, a piece of property. Daniel's face hardened. She's not property. She's a person. And she stays. The hunters exchanged looks. For a moment, silence pressed heavy in the doorway. Then the taller one stepped back. We'll be back, he said coldly. And next time, we won't. Knock. They turned and walked away, their boots striking hard against the dirt. Daniel closed the door, locking it quickly. He turned to see Lyra shaking, her eyes full of tears. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. Now they'll kill you too. Daniel placed the rifle against the wall and sat down, breathing deeply. I told you before. I've already lost everything. They can't take more from me. She stared at him, trembling. But why me? Why would you fight for me? Daniel looked at her for a long moment. His voice was quiet but heavy with meaning. Because no one fought for the ones I loved, and I won't make that mistake again. Her throat closed. She wanted to argue, to tell him he didn't understand. But the truth was, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, protected. That night, the colony buzzed with rumors. People whispered that a human had defied the hunters, that he had refused to hand over the debt-marked alien. Some called him brave, others called him foolish. But the story spread quickly and the hunters' anger grew sharper. Inside Daniel's house, the fire burned low once more. Lyra sat near it, her hands folded tightly. She whispered, They won't stop. They'll come back stronger. You can't win against them. Daniel placed another log on the fire and looked at her. His eyes were steady, unshaken. Maybe I can't win alone, but I won't let them break you again. If they come, we fight together. Lyra looked at him, stunned. No one had ever said together before. She had always been alone, always just a body to be traded. For the first time, the thought of not being alone felt real. Her eyes softened, though fear still lived inside them. Together, she whispered, as if testing the word on her tongue. Outside, the hunters prepared their weapons, their anger rising. The threat was no longer hidden. War was coming to Daniel's door. The days after the hunters' visit felt heavy. Every sound outside made Lyra's heart jump. She would stop whatever she was doing and press herself against the wall, her body trembling. Daniel noticed it all but never forced her to speak. Instead, he tried to fill the silence with simple acts, cooking, fixing small things in the house, chopping wood. At first, Lyra only watched him. Her eyes followed every movement, suspicious, waiting for the moment he would demand payment. But the demand never came. One evening, Daniel pushed a small wooden cup toward her. Here, he said. Warm milk. Lyra frowned. You waste food on me. Why? Daniel smiled faintly. Because you're alive. That's enough reason. Her chest tightened. Words caught in her throat. She wanted to shout that she wasn't worth it, but deep inside, some small piece of her wanted to believe she was. She took the cup, her hands trembling, and drank slowly. That night, when she curled near the fire, Daniel spoke quietly. Lyra, I know you don't trust me yet. You don't have to, but I won't hurt you. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. She turned away, hiding her face, but the words sank deep, like seeds in frozen ground. The next morning, Daniel gave her an old coat. It was patched and worn, but still warm. "You should come outside," he said. Lyra stiffened. "Outside? Are you mad? If the hunters see me, they won't," Daniel cut in gently. "We'll go to the edge of the forest. No one will be there. You need air. You can't stay locked in fear forever." For a long moment she stared at the coat in his hands. Then slowly she reached out and took it. The forest was quiet, filled with the smell of pine and damp earth. Lyra walked beside Daniel, her steps small, cautious. Every snap of a twig made her flinch. Daniel pretended not to notice, but he stayed, close, ready to shield her if needed. At a clearing, she stopped. Sunlight poured through the trees, warm and golden. She tilted her head back, closing her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt light touch her skin without chains around her neck. Daniel watched her silently. Her face, usually tense with fear, softened. For a brief moment, she looked young, free, almost like someone who had never been broken. "Beautiful," Daniel murmured. Her eyes snapped open, suspicion flashing. "What did you say?" He cleared his throat. "The forest, it's beautiful." She studied him for a moment, then looked away, her cheeks warming. Back at the house, Lyra began to change in small ways. She still flinched at loud noises, still woke from nightmares, but sometimes she hummed softly while eating. Sometimes she asked small questions about the colony, about Daniel's tools, about Earth. One night, as the fire glowed low, she asked, "Why do you live alone?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He stared into the flames. "I had a family once, a wife, a daughter. The war took them." Lyra's breath caught. She hadn't expected him to answer. "I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "I know what it feels, like to lose everything. That's why I won't let it happen to you." Her throat tightened. She wanted to say thank you, but the word felt too small. Instead, she whispered, "When you said I could stay forever, did you mean it?" Daniel looked at her. His voice was quiet but steady. "Yes." Her heart pounded. She turned away quickly, hiding the strange heat in her chest. No one had ever offered her forever. She didn't know if she deserved it. But the idea refused to leave her mind. The bond between them grew slowly, like fragile roots beneath the soil. Daniel never pushed, never demanded. He simply stayed, steady as the fire. And Lyra, though still frightened, began to lean toward that steadiness. But danger never left. One evening, while Daniel was chopping wood, Lyra spotted a glimmer near the street. A small drone, hovering, scanning. Her blood turned cold. She rushed outside, grabbing Daniel's arm. "They're watching," she hissed. Daniel saw it too. The drone beeped, then flew away toward the colony center. "They'll be back," Lyra whispered, panic in her voice. "With more men. With fire." Daniel pulled her close, his hands firm on her shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not alone anymore. Whatever comes, we face it together." Her chest rose and fell fast. Fear screamed inside her, but his words cut through. Together. The word felt strange on her tongue, but she wanted to believe it. For the first time, she reached for his hand. Not by accident, not in fear, but by choice. Her fingers curled around his, small and fragile. Daniel squeezed gently, his eyes steady on hers. "You're not property. You're not rent. You're Lyra, and you're staying." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't pull away this time. She let herself hold on, just a little longer, as the night closed around them and the storm drew nearer. The night was heavy with silence, but Daniel felt it in his bones. Something was coming. He sat by the window, rifle leaning against the wall. Outside, the colony street was empty, but the shadows seemed thicker than usual. Lyra sat near the fire, hugging the blanket. Her eyes kept darting toward the door. For days now, she had felt it too. The hunters were closing in. Finally, she whispered, "When they come, let me go." Daniel turned his head sharply. "No," her voice cracked. "You don't understand. If they find me here, they'll destroy you too. Your home, your life, everything. You've already risked enough. I can't let you. Daniel cut her off. You think I care about a house, about things? I care about you, Lyra. Her breath caught. The firelight flickered on her face, revealing fear mixed with something else. Something softer. But I'm not worth it, she said. Daniel's eyes softened, but his tone was steady. Yes, you are. Before she could answer, the sound of boots thundered down the street. Then came the knock, louder than ever, shaking the door. Human, a voice roared. Open the door, hand over the girl, or we burn this place to ash. Lyra's body shook. She rose to her feet, ready to run to the door, ready to give herself up to save him. But Daniel stepped in front of her, his broad frame blocking the way. Stay back, he said firmly. The door rattled again, then a voice sneered. This is your last chance, open or die. Daniel gripped the rifle, his finger near the trigger, but his voice was calm when he spoke. You won't take her. The door burst open. 2 hunters stormed inside, weapons raised. Behind them, more shadows moved in the street. Lyra gasped. No, Daniel! Daniel fired once, a warning shot into the wall near the hunters. The sound shook the room. The hunters froze for a moment, surprised by his defiance. She stays, Daniel said coldly. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. The taller hunter smirked. So be it. He raised his weapon. But before he could strike, Lyra stepped forward. Her hands shook, but her voice rang clear. Stop! The hunters turned their visors toward her. Daniel's heart dropped. Why had she stepped out? Lyra's voice cracked, but she forced the words out. I'll go, just don't hurt him. Daniel's chest burned with anger. No, Lyra, don't do this. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. I can't let you die for me. Not you. Not after everything you've done. The hunters grabbed her arm roughly. She winced, but did not resist. To them, it looked like surrender, but Daniel saw something different in her eyes. Pain, yes, but also defiance. He stepped closer, his rifle still raised. Let her go. She chooses where she belongs. The shorter hunter laughed cruelly. She has no choice. She is debt-marked. She belongs to us. Lyra lifted her head, meeting Daniel's eyes. And in that moment, something inside her broke free. No, she said loudly, her voice trembling but strong. I belong to no one. Not to you. Not to the syndicate. I choose him. She pointed to Daniel. The hunters stiffened. For the first time, their control wavered. Daniel's chest swelled with pride even as his finger tightened on the trigger. You heard her. She chooses. Now get out. For a long moment, the hunters stared at them. Then, with cold fury, they released Lyra's arm. This isn't over, the taller one spat. The syndicate will remember this. They turned and left, their boots echoing down the street. Silence returned to the house, broken only by Lyra's shaky breathing. She collapsed against the wall, her body trembling. Daniel rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. You're safe, he whispered. You're safe now. Her tears soaked his shirt. I thought you'd die for me. He held her close, his voice steady. I'd rather die protecting you than live watching you suffer. She pulled back slightly, her eyes searching his. Why? Why would you do all this? Daniel brushed a strand of hair from her face. Because everyone deserves a chance to live free, and because I want you here, with me. Stay, Lyra. Stay forever. The words struck deep. Her whole life she had been told she was worthless, nothing but a body for rent. But here was someone who saw her as more. Slowly, with tears still on her cheeks, she nodded. Forever, she whispered. Daniel smiled for the first time in years, a true smile that reached his eyes. He pulled her close, the firelight wrapping around them both. Outside, the threat of the syndicate still lingered. The hunters would return one day. But for now, in that small house, Lyra had made her choice. She was no longer property. She was No longer running. She had a home. She had someone who would fight for her, and for the first time in her life she allowed herself to believe in forever.